and welcome to Charter Ed Talks. I'm Janet Johnson with Charter School Capital, and we are very fortunate to have Sharon Thompson, who is the chairwoman of the board of Wayne Charter Schools in North Carolina, and Tricia Blum, who is also with Charter School Capital, and we're going to talk a little bit about being a board member and challenges thereof. And thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Thank you.
Yay. So, Charter School Capital is doing a campaign called We Love Charter Schools. Can you tell me, please, in a sentence or two, what you love about charter schools?
I think it's the fact that not every child fits into the traditional school format. And so, especially in the life of my children who are now adults. So I was very excited to find that the charter school, at least in our area, and I'm sure in other areas as well, we're going to offer something different for those students that just needed a choice to go to a school that more exemplified the way they could learn and what was going to be best for them. And so it's exciting to have that option because we've not had that in our county at all, except for one other charter school.
Wow. Okay, that's amazing. So, since you're you're a board president, tell me a little bit about the day in the life of a board chair. What's that look like?
Well, I think it's different for each person. For me personally, I spend, some weeks 30 hours, some weeks 60 hours. I mean, it just depends on what we have going on. Of course, we're in the project of a great new building, so I'm excited about us opening that this summer and having a pig picking to cut the ribbon with all of that going on, so that'll be great. But it's like it is with any other business. As chairman of the board, my responsibility is to make sure that everything is moving the way it should be from the business standpoint. That was the commitment that we made to our managing director because we wanted our administrative staff to focus on the scholars and our academic side, and the board was willing to, take on the other responsibilities from the financial side. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing those things that a typical business person would do. I'm answering emails, I'm on the phone, texting, having meetings with different people. But once we get those set up, and I've got a working relationship with the vendor, then I can turn that over to our business person at the school, and then they're able to continue and work with that, and they should give us some reports, to the board so that we know what's going on. But I'm running a business. It's not just sitting back, and hoping somebody does it. You've got to get in there and actually get the work done.
And you work hard, man. I know it. Do you think that once, like you said 30 and 60, and I know that's legitimate, but do you think once some of the challenges that you're facing, that's going to become less, or do you think you're going to find new tasks and projects that keep that at that kind of, what I call part to full-time job?
Right. I think that it could certainly, go to more of a part-time position once we get some of the things kind of nailed down. I want a foundation put there so that all you have to do is come in, the next chair, the next board member in, a particular area, and all they've got to do is tweak that policy or, the thing that we put together, that strategic plan, so that it's not reinventing the wheel every year. And we actually got to see what that was going to look like this summer. We just had our annual strategic planning session Friday and Saturday night. And so it was very nice to be able to sit down and just kind of tweak a few things that we needed to do, and then we can move forward. So we've got still a lot of work to do as far as putting those policies together and making sure that they're sound and where they need to be. But once you get the foundation laid, then we're going to be able to go do some of the fun stuff, which is more about the community and marketing, and then going back into the classroom and seeing all the fun programs that the children do and things that we don't have that opportunity right now because we're running a business.
During business. So I think we've talked a little bit about challenges, but specifically, I know you don't have an education background, so tell me, what challenges do you face in running the board with a non-education background?
That was huge because I didn't expect for the education side of business to look so different from the private sector, but it does. It's a very big difference. So there was a huge learning curve for me. You still have to have those good, sound business practices, but I call it knowledge by fire hose, not water hose, because I really had to get up to speed on some of the educational side of how things really work, even though, again, we've asked the managing director and the administrators to handle the education side. I still have to understand it, and so does the board. And so a lot of times, you know, I may go to different conventions or conferences. Anytime the state offers something, I try to be there for that training. I know some people say, no, don't deal with the state because we're a charter school, but I don't find that to be the case. If you build those relationships, then everybody's on board with you too. And if you go and let them know you're really trying to be a part and you want a great school and you're trying to set the right example, then they'll come on board with you as well if they weren't, you know, to start with. And we're very fortunate in North Carolina and my state that we have a great supporter of charter schools and that we're able to go and do that.
That's great. That's great. All right, so you said that you've, was knowledge by drinking from the fire hose. Early on, what was it like since you didn't, have a background in that, right? I think that there might be more to that even.
I had to rely very heavily at the beginning on the administrators so that they could explain, when you start talking about all these different testing elements and things that they're using in the curriculum, that is really tough. And so you either need a mentor that you can go and ask the questions of, what is MAPS and what is DIBELS and how does this work, right? Or do they really expect me to have, an 8% contingency, set aside and those kinds of things. And so you really have to have someone that you trust to be able to do that with. And, it never hurts to ask more than one person. It's always great to have a mentor, but it's okay to get the views of other folks to see what they're thinking as well. It was a little bit different for me because I had 2 children that had high functioning autism. So I had kind of dealt with the school system from that level. And for me, that was why I was so excited that the charter school had come along in our county because we needed something different. My children were very high functioning, but they just again didn't fit in that public school education setting. And had they been in this school setting, I think they would have flourished so much more. So I've kind of been able to look at it from both sides, from the school aspect and from the parent side of what that looks like. So that's been a help, in some areas in dealing with our children with special healthcare needs or special needs within the school system. But again, you can't figure it all out to start by yourself. You've got to have some help, and so you've got to rely on someone that will be able to explain it to you. Or again, hopefully you've hired the right people, and those educators that are there in the school, those administrators will be able to explain it to you. So one of the things too that we do at our particular school is we have 2 board meetings a month. The first one of the month we discuss financials and operations and kind of what's going on that way. And then the second meeting of the month is academics, so that we know exactly where our students are as far as where they've been placed in testing and how they're progressing along in their school for that year. So that's been great, again, in helping the board understand it, because most of our board members aren't educators. Right. And so they need to understand, again, how we're doing, because although testing's not our goal, it is a byproduct of what we have to do in North Carolina and all the other states. And so we've got to have that outcome as well as financially being responsible as well.
I like that. I like splitting that meeting too. That means you don't have a 10-hour meeting.
Right.
You laugh. Just it happens.
Yeah.
And so would you call, and this one I know we don't have, but do your average board members or your standard board members, do you think that they, instead of working 30 to 60 hours a week, do you think they work, 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week, and then week meetings they have a little longer?
Right, and we've got some board members that have just come on that I think are going to be a little bit more active. And so it's kind of that old rule, 20% of the people do 80% of the work. It doesn't change on the board. Now, I think there are those times that you really do get that group, that's just going to mesh really well and everybody will be able to kind of take the load. And I can see that starting to happen, but we've had to gel as a board first. And get to know each other and the strengths. And we're particularly looking for particular strengths now when we bring on board members. So that helps a lot as well, because having one person that's trying to figure it all out is not good. For several reasons. I told a group earlier today, if I get hit by a Mack truck, that's a problem, right? But if there's been other people there with me that have been in the same trainings, and they're going to know what I know, and that's most important, to spread out that knowledge, all the way across as much as you can.
Yep.
Yep, I agree. Thank you. One last question.
Sure.
If you would, please tell me or us a little bit about your experience working with Charter School Capital.
Oh, I could talk a long time about that. It has really been a knight in shining armor for us. It's been amazing having you to be able to come in and deal with us or help us one-on-one as we were moving through at the beginning with our partnership. I think was a big help because you want that liaison or that person you know that you can call. But then, to find out there was a whole team and Janet was part of that team and some of the other folks, it was really very reassuring for me because we had not been in that position where we had that kind of support. So to have Charter School Capital to provide not only that for us, but the opportunity to get our building built that we've been waiting for a long time, that we're all going to celebrate in the next month or two. It's been very, very exciting, and I would highly encourage anyone, if they've got the opportunity to work with Charter School Capital, to do so.
Oh,
That's very
thank you.
Thank you. Y'all have been a wonderful, wonderful support.
Thank you. Thank you.